All right, so we are going to look at comparing rational numbers. So what is a rational number? A rational number is any number that can be written as a fraction. So it includes terminating and repeating decimals. And we're going to look at this in steps. So first we're going to look at comparing. When we compare two rational numbers, the first step that we should always look at is if the numbers, look at the numbers and ask yourself, are the signs positive or are the signs different? So do you have a positive versus a negative? Because if that's the case, you don't have to do any other work. And I know that we like to be able to do the minimal amount of work if we can. So that's all I'm doing first, is I'm looking at these two and seeing if the signs are different. So I'm asking myself, do they have different signs? Well, 4 is positive, 8 is negative. So yes, they have different signs. If they have different signs, I don't need to look at the second question, which is, do they have different whole numbers? My work, all I'm going to show is I'm going to put a plus because 4 is positive. I'm going to put a minus because 8 is negative. And then I just need to know a positive compared to a negative. So 4, a positive is always going to be greater than, bigger than a negative, okay? And remembering that left means less, right means greater, okay? So greater than, sign looks like that. 4 is greater than negative 8. Okay, number 2, again, I'm going to look at, this is a negative, this is a positive. So that's the first thing I'm checking. Yes, they have different signs. As soon as I see they have different signs, I don't need to answer question B. Again, going straight to my work, all I'm going to write is this is a negative and our second number is a positive. When comparing those two, a negative compared to a negative is always less than a positive. And left means less. So when we draw our inequality symbol, it looks like that. Okay, number 3. This first one's a negative. This second one is a positive. So do they have different signs? Yes. Skipping question B, going straight to the work and showing we have a negative compared to a positive. A negative is always less than or smaller than a positive. Less than, L, turn it to the side. That is our less than symbol. And then comparing 5/8 and negative 7/12. So this is a positive. This one is a negative. So do they have different signs? Yes. That means we don't have to ask that second question. My work, positive versus negative. So 5/8 compared to the negative, the positive is always greater than a negative. So greater than is my right hand. Turn it, that's what our symbol looks like, the greater than symbol. So that's when they have different signs. That's easier. We don't have to do a lot of work. Let's look at the second question we should be asking. If they don't have different signs, part B, the second question is, are the whole numbers different? So we should be looking at the whole number value, okay? We're still gonna go through the same order of questions, okay? So the first question is still, do they have different signs? So we have a negative and a negative. So no, they don't have different signs. That's when we have to go to question B. Do they have different whole numbers? So when I'm looking at the whole number here, okay, I've got -5 and -3. Are the whole numbers different? Yes. That's the number to the left of the decimal. So this doesn't need to be here. Okay. So, do they have different signs, different whole numbers? Yes. So then what I'm doing for my work is I am just showing that whole number, -5 compared to -3, okay? We already did comparing of integers here. So we've got -5 compared to -3. If they were positive, 5 would be greater than 3, but since it's negative, it's the opposite. It is less than. Less than is an L. Turn it to the side. That is our less than symbol. Okay, number 6. First question, do they have different signs? Yes or no? Well, we have a positive and we have a positive. So no, they don't have different signs. Next thing, do they have different whole numbers? Well, the whole number is that number next to the fraction. We've got a 2 here. We have nothing here, which means the whole number is 0. So we have 2 and 0. Those are different. So yes, they have different whole numbers. So going to my work, I'm just writing down my whole number, 2 versus 0. So is 2 less than or greater than 0? If you have 2 cookies, is that less than, or is that greater than 0 cookies? 2 is bigger than, greater than 0. So greater than is the right side. Turn our hand. That is the greater than symbol. 2 and 5/6 is greater than 3/12. Okay, step 2. If the signs and or the whole numbers are the same, turn every number into a decimal. Add zeros, if necessary, to the right of the last digit so there are the same number of decimal places in each number. Okay? So, then we can compare. So in order to be able to compare, they have to have the same number of decimal points. Just like we did before, we're going through the same questions, okay? So, first question we're asking is, do they have different signs? This one's positive, this one's positive, so no, they don't have different signs. Second question, do they have different whole numbers? The whole number here is 0, the whole number here is 0. So no, they don't have different whole numbers. That means we have to actually compare the decimals. So I'm gonna rewrite them as is. Right now, these look like they are identical. They look the same. But because this one has a bar over it, that means something different. That means the 3 repeats. So if I were to add another decimal point here, I would be adding another 3. Versus this one that doesn't have a line over it, when I'm adding decimal values after that, I'm just adding a 0. So what we are comparing here is 33 compared to 30, okay? Is a 33-year-old younger than or older than a 30-year-old? Is $33 less than or greater than $30? 33 is bigger than 30. It is greater. Greater is on the right. Take your right hand, turn it. That is the greater than symbol. Okay, number 6, going through that same order. Do they have different signs? Well, we have a negative and a negative, so no, they are both negative. Do they have different whole numbers? This one is -2, this one is -2, so nope, they have the same whole numbers there. So for my work, first I'm just going to rewrite what we already have, leaving some space for work, okay? This guy has 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. This one only has 1. So in order to have the same, to be able to compare, they have to have the same number of decimal values. So what I'm going to add here, since there's no repeating bar, is just a 0. So what we are comparing is 73 to 70. We also have to remember that it's negatives. If this was positive, 73 is bigger than 70. But since it's negative, it works the opposite way. 73 is actually less than 70. Less than means the left. Turn our hand. That is the inequality symbol. Okay. All right. Number 7. Comparing 3/4. I'm gonna just fix those. Okay. Comparing 3/4 to 0.7. So do they have different signs? We have a positive and a positive. So no, they do not have different signs. Do they have different whole numbers? There's no number to the left of our fraction here. That means the whole number is 0. And in our decimal here, the whole number is 0 to the left of the decimal. So no, they don't have different whole numbers. So we're gonna have to do some work. One of them is already a decimal. The 0.7 is already a decimal, so I'm gonna leave that as 0.7. 3/4, I'm gonna plug that into my calculator, or maybe I already know the conversion. I'm taking my numerator of 3 divided by my denominator of 4, and I should get a decimal of 0.75. So I'm gonna write 0.75. And now we're gonna compare. This first one has 2 numbers to the right of the decimal, 1, 2. This second number only has 1 number to the right of the decimal. They have to have the same amount. So if this one has 2 and this one only has 1, I need to add a 0. Now I can compare the two. So 75, they are positive. So 75 compared to 70, 75 is bigger than 70. So 75 is greater than 70. Greater than is on the right. Turn our hand. That is the inequality symbol. Number 8. First question, do they have different signs? Well, this one's positive, this one's positive. So nope, those signs are the same. So no, they do not have different signs. Do they have different whole numbers? Well, the whole number here is 0. And the whole number here is 0. So no, they don't have different whole numbers. For my work, they're both decimals. So I'm going to rewrite them as decimals again. I'm going to look at how many they have. This one has 1 number to the right of the decimal. And this one has 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. We need them to have the same. So if this has 1, this has 2, I need to add 1 over here. So I'm going to add another value. We're going to add 0. Now we can compare. Their positives is 80 less than or greater than 87. 80 is smaller than 87. It is less than. Less than is on the left. Turn our hand. That is the inequality symbol we need. Number 9, comparing negative 1/4 and negative 17/100. So first comparing, do they have different signs? We have a negative and a negative. So no, they do not have different signs. Then, do they have different whole numbers? Well, there's no whole number here. That means the whole number is 0. And there's no whole number here, so that also means the whole number is 0. So no, they don't have different whole numbers. So we got to do some work. We want to turn these into decimals. So I'm going to plug into my calculator. If we have 1/4, 1 divided by 4 to get the decimal, 0.25. And remember, it's negative, so negative 0.25. Now we're going to do the same thing for 17/100. I'm going to do 17 divided by 100. And we should get 0.17, but it's negative, so negative 0.17. Now we can compare. We have 2 decimal values here, and I have 2 decimal values here. So they have the same number of spots. We can compare. If they were positive, 25 would be bigger than 17, but since it's negative, it's the opposite. Negative 25 is less than negative 17. Less than is the left. Turn your hand. That is the inequality symbol to use. And last one. Compare negative 6.05 and negative 6.5. So do they have different signs? We have a negative and a negative. So no, they do not have different signs. Do they have different whole number values? This one, the whole number is negative 6. This one's the whole number is negative 6. So no, they do not. For work, we want them as decimals. This first one's already a decimal, so I'm going to write that as is. This second one is not. When we are writing as the decimal, the whole number, negative 6, is going to stay negative 6 with the decimal point. And then all that I need to plug in is the fraction, 1 divided by 2, and I get 0.5. And it says 0.5, but the 0's to the left. That really is just because I only plugged in 1/2. That 0 is being replaced with the negative 6, okay? The 0.5 is what we care about, what's to the right of the decimal point. So that's negative 6.5. Now we can compare. Looking at this one, this has 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. This second one only has 1. So I need to add a second number. We're going to add in a 0 so that we can compare. We've got 5 compared to 50. If they were positive, 5 would be smaller than 50, but since it's negative, it's the opposite. 5 is greater than 50. Greater than is on the right. Turn your hand. That is the inequality symbol we need.